Welcome to First Sleep Aid, calm stories to help you unwind, learn, and fall asleep. From true crime to curious facts and thoughtful ideas, always softly spoken. Subscribe now and take a deep breath. You're in good hands.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking into a case that, honestly, once you hear about it, it just sticks with you. It's unsettling, it's baffling, and it remains tragically unresolved. I want you to try and picture this. Imagine some grainy CCTV footage, the kind you see from security cameras everywhere. The date is July 8th, 2014. The place is Varna Airport in Bulgaria, specifically an area behind Terminal 2. And on this footage, you see a young man. He's 28. His name is Lars Mittank. He's just in casual clothes, t-shirt, shorts, but he's running, full tilt, sprinting across the service area. No luggage with him, no phone in his hand, no obvious direction, just this urgent, panicked movement. It looks like he's running for his life. And then there's this moment, it's become iconic in a really chilling way. He glances back, just quickly, over his left shoulder, like he's being chased. But there's no one there, nothing visible anyway. And then, poof, he runs towards the edge of the screen into this blur of trees and undergrowth, and he's just gone, vanished. The moment Lars Mittank crossed from that tarmac into the forest, he basically became a question mark. Why the sudden terror?
Why did he run like that? Was someone really after him? And the biggest question, the one that haunts everyone who knows this case, where did he go?
That footage, those few seconds, are incredibly powerful, aren't they? And you're right, it has resonated across the globe. Millions upon millions of views. Lars Mittank's disappearance is, without doubt, one of the most watched, most discussed cold cases of the internet age. People online, armchair detectives, they've dissected that clip frame by frame. It's been in documentaries, endless forum threads on places like Reddit. It's often called, the most mysterious missing person case of our time. But behind all that online buzz, all the theories, there's something much quieter and much more painful. This was a real person. A life just stopped. There's a mother, Sandra, who is still searching, still hoping. Friends who are haunted by what happened. And this timeline of events that's just full of missed signals, strange choices, and ultimately profound mystery. So our mission today for this deep dive is really to look beyond just the viral video. This isn't only about a man who vanished, it's about everything and everyone he left behind. And it's about these questions that just refuse, after all this time, to fade away.
Absolutely. And to really grasp the shock of his disappearance, you have to understand the light he left behind. Before the headlines, before that chilling video, Lars was just Lars. He grew up in a town called Itzehoe. It's in northern Germany. A pretty modest place, kind of predictable, quiet even. Not the kind of place you'd expect to be the origin point for an international mystery. Think cobbled streets, local shops, a steady rhythm to life. Lars lived with his mother Sandra for a while, then got his own place nearby. He had a solid job, working as a technician at a local power plant. Stable work. People who knew him described him as, well, friendly but definitely on the introverted side. Thoughtful, calm, generally. He wasn't a big partier, didn't really drink much, didn't get into fights or trouble. He liked football, specifically his team, Werder Bremen. Liked fast food, watching games with his mates. Just a normal young guy, really. Rooted in his town, his routines, and his relationship with his mother, Sandra. That was particularly close, especially after his father left when Lars was young. It was often just the two of them. She was incredibly proud of him. He'd call her often, check in, remember little things. Birthdays, sure, but also just the small details of her life. He was that kind of son.
And that background, that stability, it's so important here. Because looking back, there were just no obvious red flags. Nothing. No history of mental health issues, no pattern of erratic behavior, no signs of serious trouble brewing. That's what makes the unraveling so jarring. For his family, obviously, but also for anyone trying to understand this. When someone vanishes like this, you instinctively look for clues in their past, right? Some crack, some warning sign. But with Lars, his past seems so normal. Almost remarkably stable, which makes what happened feel completely surreal even now, years later. So summer 2014, he's 28, got a good job, healthy, living a regular life, and he's heading off on holiday with his friends to Bulgaria. Just a standard trip, meant to be fun, relaxing, forgettable, sun, sea, a break from the routine. Nobody could have imagined it would be the turning point. The last time anyone really knew him as the Lars they thought they knew.
Right. So let's go there, to that summer trip. Early July 2014. The destination is Golden Sands on Bulgaria's Black Sea coast. It's a popular spot, especially for young Europeans looking for a cheap getaway. You know the scene. Golden beaches, bars pumping out techno music, cheap beer. It's all about letting loose, forgetting work, forgetting everyday life for a week. Lars flies out with four of his friends. Initially, everything seems totally fine. He's relaxed, cheerful, just one of the guys heading off on holiday. They check into a budget hotel, hit the bars, Watch the World Cup. It was on at the time. Laugh, get sunburned. Just a typical week that, for most people, would just blur into a haze of good times and maybe a few hangovers. Nothing remarkable.
But then came the incident. Sometime in the early hours of July 7th, things took a turn. Lars got involved in an altercation, and this is where the story starts to get a bit murky, the first real fracture in the narrative. Accounts differ on the specifics. One version is that it was an argument about football, maybe his team, Werder Bremen, versus another German team with some other German guys at a fast food place or bar. Another version suggests he got separated from his friends somehow, and the confrontation happened out on the street. We don't know for sure exactly how it kicked off. What we do know is he got hit, hard enough to rupture his eardrum. That injury, while maybe not looking dramatic from the outside, was significant. It physically marked him, but maybe more importantly, it set him apart from his friends and triggered this cascade of events.
So he gets his eardrum ruptured. That must have been painful and worrying.
Definitely. He went to see a local doctor afterwards, and the advice was clear: don't fly. The change in cabin pressure could cause serious, maybe even permanent damage to his injured ear. Now, his friends, they offered to stay back with him, which seems like the natural thing to do, right? But Lars insisted they shouldn't. He said he didn't want to spoil their trip or be a burden. Maybe he was already feeling different. Bit off, we don't know. But he told them to go home as planned. He booked himself into a cheap motel near the airport, said he'd fly back once the doctor gave him the all clear. So the group split. His friends flew back to Germany on July 7th, and Lars stayed behind. Suddenly he's alone, in a foreign country, with a head injury. And this feeling apparently was already starting to creep in the sense that something wasn't right. That simple, ordinary beach holiday was, kind of imperceptibly at first, morphing into something else, something darker. It was like he'd stepped off the path into a maze.
That fight, the one that damaged his ear, it sounds like it wasn't even that dramatic in itself. Just a scuffle, a single blow maybe?
Seems like it. Brief, almost. Ordinary in a grim sort of way. No reports of weapons, not a major brawl. But the consequences were huge. It seemed to break something more than just tissue in his ear.
So his friends leave, and Lars checks into this place, Hotel Color. You said it was a budget place? Away from the main tourist drag in Varna.
Yeah, definitely not a resort hotel. More functional, maybe a bit bleak. Concrete building, basic rooms. And he's there completely alone now. And this is where his behavior really starts to shift. Dramatically.
He starts calling his mother, Sandra, back in Germany. But he sounds different.
Very different. According to her, his voice went from normal to hushed, nervous, whispering almost. He told her urgently to cancel his credit cards immediately.
Why? Did he say why?
When she pressed him, he just whispered something terrifying. "They're coming for me." Or words to that effect, just completely out of the blue and totally unlike the Lars she knew.
Wow. That must have been incredibly alarming for her.
Absolutely. And his behavior at the hotel seemed to back this up. Staff there later said he seemed agitated, jumpy, pacing the hallways, constantly looking over his shoulder. He apparently told someone he felt like he was being followed.
So he genuinely seemed scared.
Deeply scared, yes, and erratic. There are reports he left the hotel altogether one night, maybe slept rough somewhere. He might have even checked into another hotel briefly before returning to Hotel Color. Security footage from Hotel Color does show him looking restless, on edge, unable to settle. Clearly a man in distress.
Did his friends notice anything before they left? Anything that worried them?
They were puzzled by his decision to stay, sure, but maybe not initially super alarmed because the doctor's advice about not flying seemed sensible. But looking back, they did recall him becoming quieter, more withdrawn after the fight, less engaged, like he was retreating into himself. They tried to keep things light, but it was like he wasn't really there with them anymore.
And the goodbye at the airport when they left?
Just a casual see in a few days kind of thing. But in hindsight, it was this huge dividing line, wasn't it? The last time they saw him in any kind of normal context.
And he didn't tell many people he was at Hotel Color. Kept it quiet.
Seems that way. His mother only pieced together where he was through those fragmented, increasingly strange phone calls. There was this growing sense of secrecy, or maybe fear, driving his actions.
And the fight itself, we still don't really know who was involved. Germans? Locals?
It's still fuzzy. Some reports mention the football argument with other Germans. Others hint at locals, maybe something seedier. But critically, no police report was ever filed. Just that basic doctor's visit for the ear. What seems undeniable, though, is that Lars himself came to believe he was a target. Whether that fear was based on a genuine threat or was the start of some kind of psychological breakdown, that's the core debate. But from the moment his friends boarded their plane, Lars was in a different reality. alone, injured, and stalked by a danger only he could perceive. His holiday wasn't a holiday anymore. It was something else entirely.
This hotel color. Can you paint a picture? What was it like?
Think functional, not fancy. A concrete block, probably painted in those slightly faded pastels you sometimes see. Inside, likely bare rooms, maybe fluorescent lighting in the corridors. It catered more to people passing through, perhaps workers, not really tourists looking for charm. It sounds like it became this weird sort of limbo for Lars.
And the staff noticed his behavior.
Oh yes, the receptionist remembered him. Polite, but definitely nervous, hardly any luggage. And guests apparently heard him pacing at night, peering out of windows, muttering to himself. This wasn't someone relaxing.
He mentioned being followed.
He did. He seemed convinced of it. And then there was that night he apparently just disappeared from the hotel entirely, just vanished for hours, maybe slept outside, then reappeared with no explanation. His actions were becoming increasingly unpredictable.
And the calls to his mother kept getting worse.
They escalated quickly, from that first, fairly normal check-in to the whispered panic, telling her people were trying to drug him, begging her to cancel his cards, saying he didn't feel safe anywhere.
She must have been desperate, trying to help him from so far away.
You can only imagine. She urged him to get to the airport, get on a plane, just come home. He promised he would try, but it was like this paranoia or whatever it was had its claws in him.
That message he sent her, what should I do? That's heartbreaking.
It really is. Just that simple question, but loaded with so much fear and confusion. A son reaching out to his mother, completely lost, not knowing who to trust, maybe not even trusting his own perceptions anymore.
Did he ever say who he thought was after him? Beyond just they.
Reports are a bit vague. Some suggest he thought he was under surveillance, being watched constantly. Others connect it back to the men from the fight. Was he scared of retaliation? Had he somehow gotten tangled up with something dangerous? It's all speculation based on these fragments of conversation.
And this is where the medical side comes in again, right?
Yeah.
The possibility of psychosis.
Exactly. Because the line between extreme fear, especially after head trauma, and actual delusion can be incredibly fine. Sudden onset psychosis does happen, though it's rare, particularly in young men with no prior history.
And Lars had no history.
None known. No previous episodes, no diagnosis, nothing in his background suggested a predisposition to this, which makes it even more baffling. All we have is this intense, rapid deterioration over just a few days in Varna. His reality seemed to be fracturing in real time, and just before he finally made his way to the airport on July 8th, hoping to fly home, he sent Sandra one last text message.
What did it say?
Something like, "I've made it this far." As if just getting to the airport was a major hurdle, a small victory against whatever he felt was closing in. Tragically, it wasn't the final hurdle.
Okay, so July 8th, he gets to Varna Airport, but instead of going to check-in, he heads to the airport's medical clinic.
That's right. Which is odd in itself if your main goal is just to get on a plane. But he clearly wasn't feeling right. He needed help or maybe sanctuary.
What was the clinic like?
Just a small, basic medical office. The kind you find in airports for minor stuff, ear infections, travel sickness, that sort of thing. Utilitarian, not a hospital emergency room.
And he sees a doctor there, Dr. Kossoff. What did Lars tell him?
He told the doctor he felt unsafe, that he'd been followed, that people were after him. Dr. Kossoff later described Lars as agitated, definitely, but not totally incoherent. He noted Lars had dilated pupils, a rapid pulse, and he kept nervously glancing at the door, constantly checking.
As if expecting someone.
Exactly. Like he thought the danger was right outside, about to burst in.
And the doctor prescribed him something. Cefsil, the antibiotic for his ear.
Yes, cefuroxime, also known as Cefsil, standard treatment for his condition. But Lars refused to take it. Maybe he was suspicious of medication by this point, thinking it could be part of the threat. We don't know his exact reasoning.
He has to stay in the room.
Yeah, he asked if he could wait in the exam room for a bit longer, as if it was the only safe place he could find in the entire airport.
And then, the moment everything changed.
Yeah.
What happened?
A man entered the hallway outside the clinic room. Just a regular airport worker, it seems reports say, a construction worker or technician. There was no interaction, no threat made. He might not have even noticed Lars.
But Lars reacted.
He snapped completely. According to the doctor, Lars suddenly jumped up from his chair. He might have said something like, "I don't want to die here," and then he just bolted.
Out of the clinic.
Out of the clinic, through the main airport terminal, Past startled passengers, past security checkpoints he didn't stop, he ran across the tarmac area outside, scaled a high fence, and disappeared into the dense vegetation, the trees and bushes bordering the airport grounds.
Leaving everything behind.
Everything. His backpack, which had his passport, his wallet, his phone, all left at the clinic. He ran with nothing but the clothes on his back.
And vanished. And the question remains, what was he running from? A real threat or something in his own mind?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Was it a hallucination, a severe psychotic break? Or was there actually something tangible that triggered that final desperate flight? His mother, Sandra, firmly believes he saw something real. She insists he wasn't delusional.
But the police search found nothing.
Absolutely nothing. They searched the area extensively in the hours and days afterwards. Dogs, manpower, checks. No sign of him, no body, no clues.
No.
Just the image of him running from something. And that chilling phrase reported by the doctor, "I don't want to die here," echoing in the silence he left behind. Let's picture that morning again, July 8th. Sun's up over Varna. The airport has that typical morning buzz, people checking in, grabbing coffee, waiting for flights. It's all very normal. And somewhere in that flow is Lars Mittank. Alone now, clearly anxious, but he made it to the airport. He seems to have a purpose, get home. But then he makes that detour to the clinic. Instead of heading towards his gate, he seeks out the doctor. Why? Because he hadn't felt safe for days, because whatever was happening inside him was reaching a crisis point.
And Dr. Kostov sees him, confirms the ear issue is still there, advises against flying again.
Right, and Lars starts questioning things. He's polite, apparently, but nervous. He questions the medication, the Cefsil, seems distrustful, his anxiety is palpable.
Then the worker appears in the hallway.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this seems to be the catalyst. No direct interaction, nothing overtly threatening reported. But for Lars, in that state, it was enough. His demeanor shifted instantly from anxious to terrified.
And the cameras caught his escape.
They did. Multiple CCTV cameras track his path. Out of the clinic at speed, through the automatic doors into the sunlight outside. He drops his bag near the entrance, keeps running, across the tarmac towards the perimeter fence. He scales this fence. It's reportedly about 2 meters high, topped with barbed wire even. Significant obstacle. He scrambles over it, drops down into the thick brush on the other side, and is gone from view.
What time was this?
The timestamp on the key footage is around 10:55 a.m. broad daylight.
And all his stuff, passport, wallet, phone left behind.
Abandoned. Everything you need to travel, to identify yourself, to contact anyone. Just left in the clinic.
The authorities must have been baffled.
Completely. Here's a young man, no prior mental health record that they knew of, no reported enemies, no obvious reason to flee like this, vanishing in broad daylight from a secure location like an airport. It defied easy explanation.
So he just runs into the wilderness around the airport, and that's the last confirmed sight of him.
That's it. Lars Mittank, 28 years old, vanishes into thin air. All that remains is that silent, grainy footage. A young man running from something unseen. It's the beginning and the end of the known story. Let's talk more about that footage because it really is central to why this case captured so much attention. It's grainy, yes. The colors are washed out by the Bulgarian sun. There's no audio. It should be unremarkable. But it's been watched, as you said, millions, maybe tens of millions of times, obsessively, by internet sleuths, by true crime followers, and, most painfully, by his family. You see him burst out of the building. Light t-shirt, dark shorts, running shoes. He's moving fast, frantically, but there's a focus there too. He knows where he's going away. And then that look back. That single frame when he glances over his shoulder. His face, even in the low resolution, looks contorted. Fear, confusion, panic. It's been interpreted endlessly.
Hunted or unwell or both.
Exactly. And crucially, there's no one else in the frame chasing him. The worker in the hallway, he didn't follow. No security guards are running after him at that point. The pursuit, if there was one, was invisible to the camera. But Lars's reaction is undeniable. It's primal, visceral. This wasn't a casual jog. He believed in that moment that his life was in danger.
And witnesses outside saw him continue.
Yes. People outside the terminal reported seeing a man matching his description, sprinting across the outer areas, scaling that fence, the 2-meter-high one landing in the thicket, and disappearing into the woods and brush beyond the airport perimeter. And then, nothing. The trail went completely cold right there. Police arrived, search teams mobilized, dogs were used, helicopters flew overhead. They covered the immediate area, the woods, the fields, but found absolutely zero trace of him. His backpack with all his vital documents and phone was recovered from the clinic, but Lars himself had vanished.
And when that footage was released, it just exploded online.
It really did. YouTube, Reddit, forums lit up. Everyone had a theory. Was it psychosis? Was it a genuine escape? People tried enhancing the footage, looking for clues in the shadows, debating the meaning of that backward glance. It became a kind of Rorschach test, didn't it? People projected their own fears, their own theories onto those few seconds of silent video.
And for his mother, Sandra, what must that footage represent?
Oh, heartbreakingly, it's the last proof of life. The last time anyone saw her son alive. She sees him there, running, scared, desperate. It's a constant, painful reminder.
Just a few seconds of video, and an entire life becomes an enduring mystery. The silence after that run is just profound. Lars Mittank effectively ceased to exist in any trackable way the moment he disappeared into that undergrowth. No credible sightings since then, none that have ever been verified anyway. No activity on his phone, which was left behind. No use of his bank cards or accounts. And crucially, no body has ever been found.
The Bulgarian police did mount a significant search effort initially. They brought in canine units, officers searched the fields and wooded areas around the airport on foot, they canvassed nearby villages, alerted border control. Standard procedure for a missing person. But it was like he just evaporated. The terrain there, it's described as rough, some woods, some scrubland, maybe some abandoned industrial sites. But it's not like it's impenetrable wilderness for hundreds of miles.
You'd think he'd have emerged somewhere.
You would. If he'd kept running, he likely would have hit farmland, roads, maybe houses or small communities eventually. But nobody reported seeing him. No farmer spotted a distressed man cutting across their fields. No driver saw anyone matching his description on the roads. The only clues were essentially non-clues. The absence of evidence. His backpack was at the clinic. His phone was back at the hotel he'd briefly stayed in. The CCTV showed him entering the airport looking anxious, then fleeing in panic. That's it.
And into that void, the theories rushed in.
Absolutely. Foul play was high on the list for many. Was someone waiting for him outside the fence? Had he been lured or abducted? Did the fight earlier have darker connections than first thought? Then there's the mental health angle. A sudden, acute psychotic break seems plausible given his behavior, triggered by the injury, stress, medication reaction, some latent condition.
And the more out there ideas.
Oh, they flourish too. Organ trafficking networks, secret government experiments, shady dealings he stumbled upon. The internet allows these darker conspiracy theories to spread rapidly, often without much basis, in fact.
But none of that helps the family.
Not one bit. Speculation is cold comfort when you're desperate for concrete answers. Sandra Mittank, his mother, has been campaigning tirelessly ever since, putting up posters, giving interviews in Germany and internationally, traveling back to Bulgaria, pleading with authorities. She's followed up on countless reported sightings, often fueled by the internet's fascination with the case. People sending photos of men that they think look like him from all over the world, each lead pursued, each one ending in disappointment.
That must be exhausting. Heartbreaking.
Unimaginably so. Over the years, you can see how the focus of hope has had to shift from where is he to what happened, and eventually to that most painful question, is he even still alive? And today, more than a decade later, the answer is still the same. No trace, no definitive answers, just that footage, a mother's unwavering search, and a profound, echoing silence.
It really is striking how that short, silent video clip became such a phenomenon online.
Right.
Why do you think this particular footage gripped people so intensely?
Well, I think you touched on it earlier. It taps into something primal. It looks like a scene from a found footage horror film, but it's real. A person fleeing something unseen in what looks like pure terror, with no context, no explanation. It's the not knowing, isn't it? The lack of resolution. Our brains crave patterns, explanations. And this footage offers none. It just presents this raw, visceral moment of panic and then cuts off.
Leaving this huge vacuum.
Exactly. And the internet abhors a vacuum. So millions of people watched it. Comment sections exploded. True crime channels analyzed it. Conspiracy theorists had a field day. TikTokers rediscovered it years later. It became, as you said, a Rorschach test for our collective anxieties. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing control, fear of vanishing without a trace in a world where we think everything is monitored.
It hit a nerve.
A very raw nerve. And its power lies precisely in what it doesn't show. No answers, no closure, just this endlessly looping mystery. It highlights how easily real human tragedy can become digital content, consumed and debated by strangers.
And in that vacuum, the online detectives went to work.
Oh, absolutely. Almost immediately after the footage gained traction, you had communities on platforms like Reddit, web sleuths, various forums dedicating themselves to cracking the case. People felt compelled to help, to solve it. They took on these incredible self-assigned tasks, trying to enhance the grainy CCTV frames, identifying every person Lars might have interacted with, tracking his phone calls or lack thereof, pinpointing the exact location of the clinic, the fence.
Poring over maps, satellite images.
Everything. Translating Bulgarian news reports, trying to contact potential witnesses directly, building detailed timelines of his last known days and hours, debating every single detail lead into the night across continents.
Did any of that actually help the investigation?
It's a mixed bag. On one hand, it kept the case in the public eye, which is valuable, and sometimes, very occasionally, online sleuths do uncover useful nuggets. They might find an old social media post or connect dots the official investigation missed, but mostly. It generated a huge amount of noise. You had the people pushing the psychosis theory clashing with those convinced of foul play, clashing again with the wilder conspiracy theorists.
An echo chamber.
Very much so. It became this repository of every rumor, every half-baked idea, every possible interpretation. Some people were genuinely empathetic, posting hotline numbers, sending messages of support to Sandra. Others seemed more interested in the puzzle, the drama, maybe even the notoriety of being involved in discussing such a famous case. So these online spaces were part archive, part echo chamber, part obsession. Lars's case transformed from a tragic event into this ongoing digital narrative, a meme of fear, as some have called it. But despite all that online activity, all those millions of clicks and comments, it hasn't led to a breakthrough. No confirmed sightings, no solid leads directly attributable to the online efforts, just more theories, endless theories.
It's such a strange paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lars Mittank becomes incredibly famous, but only because he disappeared.
Yeah.
He's an icon of absence.
Precisely. And that viral video played a huge role. It compressed this complex, terrifying situation into maybe 10 seconds of raw panic. That image resonated because it bypassed logic and went straight for the gut-feeling fear.
People didn't need the backstory.
Not necessarily. They saw the terror on his face, the desperate flight, and they filled in the narrative gaps themselves, often projecting their own fears or biases onto him. So Lars became a symbol. For some, he was proof of the dangers of traveling alone. For others, a casualty of inadequate mental health care. For the conspiracy-minded, he was evidence of hidden networks, government plots, organ trafficking rings. He became a blank canvas for whatever narrative people wanted or needed to see.
But the reality is, he was just a person.
Exactly. A son, a friend, a 28-year-old guy who found himself in a situation that possibly overwhelmed him, whether due to illness, injury, or a genuine external threat or some combination. The internet, generally speaking, isn't great with nuance. It thrives on certainty, on drama, on easily digestible stories.
And the more the online speculation grew, the further away we got from the actual person, Lars.
It felt like that sometimes. His mother, Sandra, spoke about this. While appreciative of the awareness, she also pleaded for people to respect his dignity, to stop sending fake sightings that just caused more pain, to stop treating her son's disappearance as entertainment. Her hope was real, but also incredibly fragile under that constant barrage of speculation.
So virality can keep a story alive.
It absolutely can, but it doesn't inherently lead to truth or resolution. In Lars's case, the sheer volume of the mystery, amplified by the internet, often drowned out the quieter, more human aspects of the story. The noise became louder than the person at its center.
Let's talk about those main theories then. When something this baffling happens, people need explanations. What are the leading possibilities?
Broadly, they fall into three main camps, each trying to impose some kind of logic onto the chaos. First, as we've discussed, is psychosis. Proponents of this theory look at the timeline. The head injury, the isolation, the escalating paranoia described in phone calls, the frantic behavior at the hotel and airport. They see a pattern consistent with a sudden, severe mental breakdown.
Possibly triggered by the concussion or medication.
Potentially. Post-concussive psychosis is rare but documented. The stress of being alone and injured in a foreign place could have been a factor. Even a rare adverse reaction to the antibiotic, cefuroxime, while unlikely, can't be entirely ruled out without more information. The key evidence here is Lars's behavior in those final days. He seemed to be fleeing something internal.
Okay, theory one. Psychosis. What's the second main camp?
Foul play. This theory focuses on the idea that Lars's fear was real and justified, that someone was after him. Supporters point to the initial fight. Maybe it wasn't just a random scuffle. Did he anger the wrong people? Perhaps someone connected to local crime. They question why he was so convinced he was being followed, why he told his mother they were coming for him.
Did he witness something? Stumble onto something illicit?
That's the speculation. Why else would a seemingly normal young man suddenly believe his life was in danger? This theory suggests an external threat, possibly waiting for him outside the airport or perhaps having followed him there. The lack of a body could mean he was successfully abducted.
And the third category.
Conspiracy. This is where things tend to spiral into darker, more elaborate scenarios, often fueled by the internet. Human trafficking rings operating in the area, organ harvesting schemes targeting tourists. Maybe the clinic wasn't what it seemed. Maybe state surveillance or espionage was involved somehow. These theories often lack concrete evidence but gain traction because they offer a grand, sinister explanation for something that otherwise feels random and senseless. They provide a clear villain.
So psychosis, foul play, or conspiracy.
Those are the main narratives. What they all share is that attempt to find order in the disorder, to answer the why. The tragic reality might be less clear-cut. Maybe it was a combination of factors. A young man, vulnerable due to injury and isolation, experiencing intense fear, whether fully rational or not, who made a panic decision with fatal consequences. Maybe he got lost in the woods, succumbed to the elements, or had an accident. The truth might be simpler and sadder than any elaborate theory. But the fact remains, we just don't know. And that lack of knowing is perhaps the greatest tragedy of all.
Let's dig a bit deeper into one specific theory that keeps cropping up, the one involving the medication, the cefuroxime. You hear it mentioned a lot in online discussions.
Yes, the big pharma angle, or at least the medication-induced psychosis theory, has definitely persisted. And it hinges entirely on that prescription Lars received for his ear, cefuroxime.
Which is a pretty standard antibiotic, right?
It is. It's a common cephalosporin antibiotic used widely for various bacterial infections. For the vast majority of people, it's safe and effective.
But there are known side effects.
There are, and crucially, some rare neurological side effects have been documented. Things like confusion, agitation, even hallucinations or delirium. These seem to be more likely, though still very rare, in patients with pre-existing conditions or, significantly here, potentially after head trauma.
So the theory goes, Lars gets hit on the head, ruptures his eardrum, gets prescribed cefuroxime, and then has a severe, rare reaction that triggers intense paranoia and hallucinations.
That's the core of the more grounded version of this theory. It suggests his terrified flight wasn't because of external pursuers, but because his own brain chemistry was altered, perhaps by the drug interacting with the injury or stress. He was, in this scenario, running from phantoms created by his own mind under chemical influence.
It provides a neat, contained explanation in a way.
It does. It links his behavior directly to a specific identifiable event, the prescription. And there is medical literature, albeit limited, on antibiotic-induced psychosis. So it's not entirely without basis, though it would have been a very rare reaction.
But then there's the more conspiratorial take on this.
Right. Some people take it much further. They question why he was given that specific drug. They suggest the clinic staff were somehow negligent or even malicious. Was he part of some secret drug trial without his knowledge? Did he know something about the pharmaceutical company that made them want him silenced?
That sounds like a huge leap.
It is. There's absolutely no evidence to support these claims. The Varna clinic appears to be just a standard travel clinic. Cefuroxime is a routine prescription. The idea of a vast corporate conspiracy targeting a random German tourist seems highly improbable, frankly.
So why does that theory persist?
I think partly because it offers a clear antagonist. It assigns blame. In a story with so many unknowns, having a villain, even a shadowy corporate one, can feel more satisfying than just accepting chaos, bad luck, or a tragic psychological event. It fits a narrative of distrust towards large institutions.
When the reality might be simpler and sadder.
Exactly. Maybe Lars did have an adverse reaction to the medication, or maybe the stress and isolation were the primary drivers, or maybe it was something else entirely. Perhaps the system failed him not out of malice, but simply because his situation was complex and rapidly evolving and he fell through the cracks. That possibility, while less dramatic, is perhaps even more heartbreaking.
It really is. The not knowing that feels so cruel in this case. It's not a sudden impact, but this continuous grinding absence.
That's a very good way to put it. It's not a sharp pain, but a dull, constant ache. For Lars Mittank's family, particularly his mother, Sandra, that's been their reality since 2014.
No answers.
No closure.
None. No confirmed sightings, no communication, no financial activity, and perhaps most significantly, no body has ever been recovered. That lack of physical evidence just leaves everything suspended.
Sandra still believes he's alive, doesn't she?
She has consistently said so in interviews over the years. She holds on to the possibility that he might have amnesia, that he's lost somewhere, unable to remember who he is or how to get home. That hope is what fuels her relentless search.
But it must be an incredibly painful hope to maintain.
It's been described as a slow-acting poison in situations like this. Because without definitive proof either of life or death, you can't fully grieve, you can't move forward, you're trapped in this limbo, there's no grave to visit, no final narrative to accept, just silence.
And for the official investigation.
Leads dried up, resources get reallocated to newer cases. Over time, Lars's file inevitably becomes one among many cold cases. Investigators face the challenge of chasing ghosts with very little to go on.
So the narrative just fragments further.
Exactly. People fill the void with their own versions. He was abducted, he died by suicide in the woods, he started a new life under an assumed name. Each theory arguably says more about our need for resolution than about what actually happened to Lars.
And the difference between Lars, the public mystery, and Lars, the son, the friend.
It's vast. For us, discussing it now, it's a compelling, tragic puzzle. For his family, it's the loss of a loved one, an absence that permeates every aspect of their lives. That not knowing isn't just uncertainty, it's this constant, invisible pressure.
No final answers. No peace.
Just that image from the CCTV, frozen mid-flight, endlessly replayed, and this immense, ongoing burden of not knowing, a grief that can't conclude because it never truly got to begin. Amidst all the speculation and the silence, the one constant has been the family search. And really at the forefront of that is his mother, Sandra Mittank. Her voice has been the most persistent sound in this whole affair. She simply refused to let him disappear quietly. From very early on, she was speaking to the media, putting up posters, traveling back and forth to Bulgaria, doing everything humanly possible to keep his case alive. Her message has always been direct, aimed at Lars himself.
Those pleas for him to come home.
Exactly. Lars, if you see this, please come home. We miss you. We love you. It's incredibly moving. It's not just about hope. It's about asserting his existence, refusing to let him become just a statistic or a forgotten file.
It's a form of agency, isn't it? When everything else fails.
It absolutely is. When official channels slow down, when the trail goes cold, a mother's voice, a family's determination, becomes the last line of defense against being forgotten. They've worked with private investigators over the years. They've shared age-progressed photos showing what Lars might look like now. They've followed up leads from all over the world, often sent in by well-meaning people who saw the story online.
Even sightings far away, U.S., South America.
Yes, there have been reports from very distant places. Most, if not all, turned out to be mistaken identity. Each dead end must be incredibly painful, reopening the wound.
Social media must be a double-edged sword for them.
Hugely. On one hand, it keeps his face, his story circulating globally. Awareness is vital. But on the other hand, it exposes them to constant speculation, intrusive theories, and those painful false leads. Yet Sandra persists, seemingly driven by this conviction that someone, somewhere, knows something more.
It's more than just finding him now, perhaps.
It feels like it's also about the fundamental right not to be erased, that every life matters and demands answers. In Germany, Sandra is quite well known now because of her advocacy. She's become this symbol of quiet strength, of maternal love enduring against impossible odds. But her situation also highlights a systemic issue, doesn't it? How often the burden of continuing the search falls almost entirely on the families themselves, long after official resources have dwindled. Every year, on the anniversary, she posts something. A memory, an appeal. It's this quiet act of faith, isn't it? Believing that hope itself is a form of love. And that somehow, somewhere, Lars might still feel that connection.
The sheer scale of attention Lars Mittank's case received online is phenomenal, but it raises some difficult questions about how we consume true crime and mystery.
It really does. His tragedy became content, his pain became speculation, his final known moments became a viral sensation.
That CCTV footage was key. Its brevity, its ambiguity. Yeah. It was perfect for the internet age.
It was perfectly packaged mystery. Short, shocking, unexplained. It didn't require deep engagement, it just demanded a reaction. And millions reacted. Clicked, watched, commented, shared.
And in that process, Lars, the person, got lost.
To a large extent, yes. He became a data point, a case study, a symbol.
Huh.
People debated his mental state, theorized about his fate, almost like solving a puzzle, sometimes seemingly forgetting the real human suffering involved.
Armchair diagnoses filled the comment sections.
Exactly. Schizophrenia, drug psychosis, abduction victim, secret agent. Everyone had an opinion. It raises serious ethical questions, doesn't it, about the responsibility of content creators who repackage these stories, about the platforms that host them, about us as consumers.
Where is the line between raising awareness and exploitation?
It's incredibly blurry. Virality did keep Lars's name and face circulating, which is arguably beneficial for a missing persons case. But it also stripped away context, nuance, and often dignity. His story was chopped up, remixed, set to ominous music, all for engagement.
Even mainstream news struggled.
Some outlets handled it responsibly, with sensitivity. Others definitely leaned into the sensational aspects, hinting at conspiracies using clickbait headlines. And very few provided sustained follow-up once the initial shock wore off. The news cycle moves on.
It's the paradox of attention in the digital age.
It is. Attention equals visibility, which can be powerful, but it's often shallow, fleeting, and driven by algorithms rather than empathy. This case forces us to ask, what are we actually seeking when we dive into these online mysteries? Is it justice, understanding, or just a morbid curiosity?
When does collective interest tip over into something less helpful?
That's the crucial question. To disappear in the 21st century might mean not being forgotten, but being endlessly circulated, pixelated, debated, consumed. And we need to remember that behind the pixels, behind the theories, was a real young man, afraid, maybe unwell, maybe pursued, and still missing. There's this unique kind of silence around a missing person, isn't there? It's not just the lack of sound, it's the weight of everything unsaid, unknown. It's grief held in suspension. For Lars Mittank's family, that silence has been their constant companion. Sandra, his mother, her struggle hasn't just been about finding Lars, it's been about finding ways to puncture that silence, to keep him present in a world that moves on so quickly.
Her belief that he's alive.
I believe he is alive. I feel it. That's a direct quote from her. It's more than just hope. It feels like an act of defiance. Defiance against the odds, against the passing years, against the silence itself.
It's a burden no family should have to carry alone.
Absolutely. Every missing person case sends ripples outwards, families left in limbo, friends haunted, communities unsettled, and it challenges the systems we have in place. It also, I think, places a kind of obligation on all of us.
What kind of obligation?
An ethical one, to resist the urge to turn these real human tragedies into simple narratives, into entertainment, into clickbait, to remember the full person behind the headline, behind the viral video.
Even when the story becomes mythologized online.
Especially then. The internet helped spread Lars's face, yes, but it also fueled distracting theories and, frankly, entertainment that can feel deeply disrespectful to the family's pain.
So what do we owe the missing?
I think we owe them vigilance, attention to their cases, yes, but also careful attention to how we tell their stories. We owe them respect in our language, our tone, our commitment to facts over speculation, and maybe most importantly, we owe them our presence. A willingness to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty, to not demand neat resolutions where none exist, to understand that unresolved doesn't mean forgotten.
They exist in that space between knowing and not knowing.
Between memory and myth, presence and absence. Our task, collectively, is to hold that space with integrity, to keep asking the questions, to keep remembering, and as you said about Sandra's efforts, to never let the silence win completely.
You know that footage from Varna Airport? It never changes. It plays on loop. The same grainy seconds. Lars running, glancing back, disappearing. People still watch it, pause it, zoom in, hoping to find some clue that everyone else missed. Searching for meaning in the pixels. Did he see someone? Was that shadow significant? Was his expression fear or something else? But the most haunting part is still what happens after the camera stops. The absolute void. No trail, no confirmed sighting, no final message. Just absence. Complete, echoing, unexplained absence. Lars Mittank in the years since has become more than just another missing person. He's become this potent symbol for our times, a symbol of mystery in the digital age where we think everything is traceable. A modern myth about vanishing when every move supposedly leaves a footprint. But we have to remember the person, Lars Joachim Mittank, 28 years old, from Itzehoe in Germany, liked football, worked as a power plant technician, had friends, family, a future planned, a whole life interrupted, and a mother who still waits, still hopes. There isn't likely to be a neat conclusion to this deep dive, because there's no neat conclusion to the case itself. Maybe there never will be. And perhaps the real takeaway isn't about solving the mystery of Lars, but about what his story reveals about us. How we grapple with the unknown, how we desperately need narratives to make sense of chaos, how much we crave resolution, perhaps because uncertainty feels so fundamentally unsafe. The surveillance camera stopped recording that day at Varna Airport. But the story of Lars Mittank, it continues. It continues in the questions we ask, in the searches that persist, in the memory held by those who loved him. Somewhere, in some sense, Lars Mittank is still running. If not in reality, then certainly in the minds of millions around the world. And perhaps that enduring presence in our collective consciousness, that refusal to forget, maybe that too is a form of presence, a life tragically suspended but not erased.